Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Now today's review is going to be another Cronos watch. I got this along with the bronze Cronos that I recently reviewed, and the watch in question is Cronos' Sub Homage. Now I bought this watch from the Cronos store on AliExpress, and I'll be sure to link that store within the description. I got this watch for around £167, and dollars that translates to approximately $220. So let's start the unboxing. You open the box, you've got the Cronos warranty card, you get a screwdriver because the watch does have screw-in links, and the color option I opted for is the Kermit style. So they've got various configurations. When you look at the options, this watch, it comes with a PT5000. You also have the SW200 from Selita option, which is a Swiss made movement. So let's go ahead, get this unwrapped. This watch, by the way, has got tape literally everywhere, so this is going to take me some time. While I take off the tape and unwrap this watch, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Remember to hit the notifications bell. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. Hit a like if you do like the video. Remember to also check the description. That's where you'll find the affiliated links from AliExpress. So we're going to do a quick first impressions. We're going to look at the specifications, dimensions, and then we'll go through each feature of the watch and break it down and finish it off with a nice little conclusion. So, first impressions, I'll tell you what, Kronos have really set a really good standard. The few watches that I have handled, with one exception, the finishing, the quality, the build quality, the material used is really up there. Everything looks nice and really well made, well refined. And what I do really like what Kronos are doing is they're bringing us this PT5000, this high beat ETA 2824 clone movement, and they're making it very, very affordable. If you think about the prices, they're giving us this same movement in the same price bracket as what we were paying for the NH35s. If you look at the bronze 6105 that I just did from Kronos, under £150, you've got a high beat movement. And that's the same story with this watch. This is, for example, on par with the San Martin Sub Homage, sorry, which gives you an NH35, and here we have Kronos giving us a high beat PT5000. So first impressions aside, very good watch. Let's look at some specifications. Let's see what this watch does give you. You get a full 316L stainless steel case, including the crown, bezel, and the bracelet. Everything is solid. There's no hollow links on this watch at all. And you also get a 120 click unidirectional bezel with a ceramic bezel insert. You get a flat sapphire crystal with a slight chamfer and with AR coating, and you also get a date magnification window, which is also sapphire. You get 200 meters of water resistance, and of course you get that PT5000 movement, which is produced by Hong Kong Precision Tech. The beat rate of this movement is 28,800. It's got 8 ticks a second, which gives you a really nice sweep. Therefore, it's referred to a high beat movement, which also gives you a rated accuracy of plus or minus 12 seconds out of the factory. Now, if you want to know more about this movement, I have a separate video just on this movement and how good it is. So please check that out. I'll link it in the description. The case diameter is at 40 millimeters across. The watch thickness is at 13.3 millimeters. The lug to lug is at 48 millimeters, and the lug width is 20 millimeters. The bracelet does taper down from the lug ends to the clasp from 20 millimeters to 16 mil. The weight of the watch is 160 grams, and this watch has not had any links taken out. So I would say the Kronos does have very small wrist friendly dimensions and good proportions, which of course are in line with the actual Submariner as well. Now let's take a closer look at all the individual features of this watch, and of course to do that we need to start off with the dial. You've got a glossy black printed dial with applied hour markers. The hour markers are slightly off-white, and you've got a mixture of shapes. You've got a triangle at the 12 o'clock, baton at the 6, and the other numerals are circular. All the hour markers have a silver polished frame around them. You've got printed text on the dial, 12 o'clock, the Kronos logo. At 6 you've got automatic 200 meters, and you've also got a printed minute track which goes all the way around the dial. You've also got a printed date window, which does kind of get in the way of the date magnification glass. Now let's turn our attention to the handset used. Of course, you can see that the traditional Mercedes style hands, the hour and the minute hand are chamfered slightly, so you get some nice light reflecting off them. And the seconds hand, you've got this lollipop hand, needle-like lollipop hand, and it does extend out to the printed minute track. Overall, the dial looks really nice. I can't see any printing errors. I think it does suit the watch, and it is that traditional sub style dial. The ceramic bezel insert used is of a high quality. You can see the markers are very crisp and clear, and you've also got that subset illuminated pip at 12 o'clock. I really like how they've done that. The bezel itself, it's been machined really well. Those scallops are very smooth, and the actual function of the bezel is quite nice as well, buttery smooth almost. I also like the color, how it's a bit darker, and I think that suits those off-white hour markers that you can see on the dial, and I think that gives the watch just a very slight vintage look. The lume used on the dial and the pip is BGW9. Now at first glance it looks pretty bright, but I think it's missing that super bright factor that you do get with the C3 Super Luminova. Now of course BGW9 isn't as bright as C3. Longevity is okay, again not as good as the C3 Super Luminova. However, I think this could have done with just a few more layers being applied, but other than that I think the lume is okay. It will definitely do the job. Now the crystal used on this watch is of course sapphire. It's a flat sapphire crystal with a very slight chamfer around the edge, and it does indeed have AR coating. One thing to note, that the AR coating isn't too strong and it doesn't get in the way of viewing the dial. But with this crystal you will notice it does protrude slightly. It does sit over flush above the ceramic bezel insert. Personally, I don't like that, but it depends on how you guys feel. Now the second thing to note is that magnification glass. That is also sapphire, which is a nice touch, but I think that frame around the date window does really get in the way, and it does really spoil that look. The two just don't go together. Now we've already covered the bezel, but I felt I'll give the rotation just some more screen time. Just listen to that. It's a very buttery smooth rotation, the right amount of friction, the right feel, and this on a personal level, I really do like bezels that rotate like this. It's also very accurate. There is next to zero backplay as well, and just the overall feel and the sound does sound really nice, and I really like the way they've done it. And I'm kind of trying to figure out how they've done it, because that's not the same what you get on a lot of the watches that do come out from China. So whatever they've done, it's definitely a plus, and that's one of the nicest features of this watch. Now let's go over the case and the bracelet. Now the case, the A face at least, it's got linear brushing, and the sides, you've got very high polished sides. The lug ends aren't sharp on the case, so it has been finished really well. And again, that mirror like polish. The crown is signed, and it does have that timer logo, if you will. And the bracelet, fully solid, full stainless steel. It's got that flip lock clasp. Case back is a Rolex style case back with those gear like teeth, and the brushing on the bracelet is actually very smooth. The side of the links have been polished, and the links on the A face are fully brushed with linear brushing, and you've got some nice finishing to the links overall. They're also screw-in links, and what I'm doing there, I'm trying to feel for any sharpness and edginess, which surprisingly there is none, and it does feel quite smooth and gives you that OEM feel overall. Now moving over to the clasp, yes, now this is a very familiar clasp we see on the actual Rolex flip lock mechanism. It doesn't sound too loud. It is quite soft. There's no, usually with these clasps you do get a very audible click, but not so much with this. There's also no sharpness on that flip lock, which is a plus, because usually that's where you get the sharp ends, which then damage your bracelet. You've also got micro adjust underneath the clasp. You've got 3 small micro adjust, and now that has been designed effectively as well. You can see the grooves that have been engraved out. You've also got access to the spring bar, so you can get a spring bar tool in there, or a mini screwdriver if you need to, and actually enable that micro adjust to be utilized. So overall, a very, very good job on the bracelet. Very good job on the case as well, and you know, it is a very refined product. Now, time for a wrist shot. Now, uncoincidentally, I am wearing my San Martin Sub Homage while I review this watch. So that goes without saying that you can expect a comparison video to follow shortly after this review. As you can see side by side, they look really close, but I'll save the details for the actual review. Now I have sized up this watch. The screw links are really nice. They come out with no issues. The threads are very smooth, and the screwdriver they provide is actually very precise as well. So for reference, my wrist is 6.5 inches. Now the diameter of the watch, 40 millimeters, lug to lug 48, very proportionate. Also the clasp isn't too long. You know, with the smaller wrists, the longer clasps aren't that comfortable. It fits snugly on the wrist. I think the proportions are okay for a 6.5 inch wrist. It isn't too heavy, and you know, that green and black color combination, although subjective, I think it does look really nice in this case. Now this is where the smoothness on the links of the bracelet do actually come in handy. It really does add comfort when you wear it on the wrist. Now it's time to summarize. First things first, the best thing about this watch is the value for money. The price point of this particular model, with that PT5000 movement, it's made that movement very, very affordable. Second thing is that bezel. I love how refined it is, and I love the action and the sound. It is by far one of the nicest bezels that I've handled on a watch from AliExpress. Also like the finishing on the case. There's no sharp edges on the lug tips. I generally like the bracelet. I think the brushing is nice. It's been well executed. I like the off-white color on the dial. I think the color combination does go well together. But yeah, I mean, if the San Martin wasn't around, I'd say this would then hold the position of what the San Martin currently holds. So now let's talk about the dislikes, and let's start off on the first thing right there. Now you must have noticed this because of that frame around the date window, and combined with that magnification glass, it just doesn't work. It's more of a hindrance, and that is why people get annoyed with these magnification cyclops. The second thing, what bugs me, and this might be subjective, is that sapphire crystal. I don't like it when they just protrude, where it's not enough to be a top hat. To me, it just looks like a poor fit and finish. I think they should have, you know, maybe gone for a crystal that just fit right. I mean, if it's for a functional purpose, then fair play. You know, if it's to prevent damage to the bezel, but bezel is ceramic, so you know, it is pretty much scratch proof. Now this brings me to the final problem that I have with this watch, and there's quite a noticeable gapping issue between the end links of the bracelet and the lugs on the case. Now you do have a slight gap on most watches, but with this gap you can actually just about see the spring bar through it. Now I think it's just a touch too big, a fraction of a millimeter maybe, but you know, I've seen these bracelets fit a lot better on different cases, so I don't know what's happened here, but that gap isn't really what you want, because it is visible. You will notice it. It's actually one of the first things that I did notice when I put this watch on my wrist. That is something they need to resolve. You know, as far as the date window is concerned, I think Cronos they have made new dials where they will remove that date window. I think it's something they should have done previously. Now, when we put it next to the San Martin, you might be forgiven if you think they're exactly the same. You know, they are not exactly the same. There are a few slight differences, which I hope to cover in the review which I will conduct after this and between the two watches. And I think you'll be surprised how different they actually are. So that's it for the review. As always, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and comments in the section below, and make sure you check the link in the description if you are interested in this watch. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.